Joe Gibbs Racing, who has such a strong history, especially a strong recent history at Pocono, has won yet again at the 2.5 mile triangle. But was it Denny Hamlin, the all-time leading winner at the track? No, he ends up finishing second. Was it Christopher Bell, the hot shot for Joe Gibbs Racing, who is tied for the most wins in the league right now, who's made their most recent championship 4 appearances? No, not him either. Is it Ty Gibbs, who has been searching for that first win for a few years now, looking to finally cash in victory lane at a track that he's had some success at? Once again, no. It was Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe picks up the 19 car's first win since 2023. Around this time, I believe, it was at Sonoma with Martin Truex Jr. Briscoe, in his first year with Joe Gibbs Racing, is a winner. He had to save some fuel at the end of this race. Remember at the Coca-Cola 600, Denny Hamlin in contention for that win, fighting William Byron in an epic, amazing, however else you want to put it, duel fighting for that win. Ultimately, Ross Chastain wins that race, but Denny Hamlin goes to pit and they end up not filling the car up with fuel. They end up being 11 or 12 laps short because the fuel did not go into the car. Well, once again, a Joe Gibbs Racing driver, Chase Briscoe, they come in for their final green flag pit stop of the day. They pit, but it's a super quick pit stop with just under 40 laps to go. Quick pit stop, great. They retain the lead. They get to keep their track position. That sounds great in theory, but the problem with the final pit stop at Pocono is that Pocono is a strategy track. We see a lot of fuel mileage races at this track. So you actually needed a little bit longer of a pit stop at the end of this one. We saw Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, all these guys who end up at the top 5 at the end of this thing. They have enough fuel to make it at the end because they waited an extra 3 to 4 seconds to make it to the end on fuel. But Chase Briscoe did not. So while he's still in the lead, he has to save fuel. He has to save a few laps of fuel. Lifting early before getting to the turn. Lifting completely versus a partial lift. Not using 4th gear or downshifting to 4th gear in the tunnel turn. He has to do all these different tricks to save fuel at the end of this race. There was one caution at the end of this race and kind of around 30 laps to go. So that was a big help to Briscoe to help save fuel. But once he regained or once he reestablished the lead off that restart, he was being hounded by Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher, Chase Elliott, the eventual top 5, and no one could pass him. Denny Hamlin tried his best. He tried to get to him, but it was just so difficult to pass, and the aerodynamics and whatnot, dirty air, such a talked about topic. But Chase Briscoe, a driver who's known for going fast, a driver who's known for pushing it to the limit, had to do the opposite today. He had to save gas, quite literally go the opposite of pushing it to the limit. He had to push it to the not push it to the limit. Chase Briscoe had to save fuel. He had to save a few laps of fuel, had to save more than a mile per gallon of fuel compared to his rivals that were chasing him down, pushing him to it. And as I said, it was just so difficult to pass today, and that's a completely different discussion and a discussion we've had so many times. That Chase Briscoe, even though he was saving much more fuel, and in fact, no one behind him was saving fuel, he was able to pick up his first Joe Gibbs Racing victory. And this is something that he has wanted the entire year. Obviously, you want to win every race you can when you're in the equipment. Chase Briscoe has 2 career wins, both with Stewart-Haas Racing. The Phoenix race in 2022 and last year, the Southern 500, the win that he had to win in order to make the playoffs. Well, this is his first year in championship equipment. This is the first year where he has come into a team and said, all right, I know what I got to do. I know what this team is capable of. We can win championships. The 11 has made numerous championship 4s. The 20 has made championship 4s. Previous drivers, Kyle Busch has won multiple championships. This is a top-tier organization. When we kind of spread out the different tiers of organizations in NASCAR, it is undoubted, I don't think it's questioned at all, that the big teams, the top tier, is Hendrick, Penske, and Joe Gibbs Racing. So Chase Briscoe coming to this team, he knew that he had to show up and he had to perform almost immediately in order to, if I say keep his ride, that makes it sound like it was in question. He has a multi-year deal, but in order to silence the doubters, silence the haters, whatever you want to put it, he had to win immediately with this team. He's had great speed in qualifying. He's got like 4 poles on the season. They've done fantastic in the raw speed, but when it comes to the races, they just have not executed as well. And this is a trend we've seen with this 19 team. We look at the first half of 2023. They looked like the championship favorites. They won 3 or 4 races with Truex. Back half, they went winless. They went winless last year, eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. But also Truex, you could argue, his head was kind of out of it because he knew he was retiring and he had already gone fishing. Bass Pro Shops joke. Hope you enjoyed it. But Bass Pro Shops, they opt to stay with Joe Gibbs Racing, stay with the 19 team, back up Chase Briscoe, this new guy who's coming in that Joe Gibbs Racing believes in. And Chase Briscoe, right before the halfway point of the season, he shows up and he wins them a race. He leads 72 laps and this thing wins a stage as well. So you could argue I don't know if dominated. Pocono, there's so many different strategies, fuel strategies, 2 tires, 4 tires. There's so much to keep up with in this race. It's hard to keep up with in this race, all the different strategies that happen. But when they took the gamble to stay out, get the track position, when McDowell blew that tire and they thought there was going to be a caution, and there ended up being a caution 5 or 6 laps later, when they took that gamble, that got them the track position, and they never let it go. They essentially dominated the back half of this race. They weren't as good as Hamlin or Buescher or even Elliott at the beginning of this race, but when it came to the back half, when it came to the time they needed to execute, a time that they've struggled this year, they finally did it. But let's look at the finishing results. As I said, kind of like Michigan, wild strategy race, hard to keep up with everything, but Chase Briscoe is your winner. He is in the playoffs. 3 of the 4 Joe Gibbs Racing cars are locked into the playoffs. Chase Briscoe, I don't know if you picked Pocono, if that would have been his guess at where his first JGR win would be, but it was Pocono. He ends up winning at Pocono. As I said earlier, the first win for this group since 2023. Once again, I believe it was Sonoma. You got to correct me if I'm wrong. Winless last year in Truex's final season, eliminated in the first round. Joe Gibbs Racing says to James Small, like, look here, you've had a rough year and a half with the 19 team. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's see how you can do with the new driver. Give you some refreshment and see what happens. And ultimately, they have capitalized. They've had the speed. They've had the poles. And now they have a win. They're into the playoffs. The rest of the regular season is stress-free. They can worry about getting playoff points, being a little bit closer. They're still not quite on the level of Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin, but working to get to that level. Denny Hamlin finishes second, also gets a bonus point for the fastest lap. He led the entire first stage, led the first 32 laps of this race, had arguably the best car all day long. He never led again after those first 32 laps. He was in the mix for the entire race. Even when the strategies kind of mixed things up, put him back in the field, put him 16th, 17th, he was able to make his way up through the field, which is really confusing because we saw great cars able to move up through the field and whatnot, like Hamlin, like Buescher, when they got stuffed back in the mid-pack. But just that last run was really confusing. Why couldn't anyone pass Chase Briscoe? That's a side topic, but Denny Hamlin, his first race back after missing Mexico due to the birth of his son, he comes back, finishes second. He had the pole, led 32 laps, won a stage, so he picks up a playoff point, which is a big deal for him, but he would have rather had that 8th Pocono win. Third place, Ryan Blaney, the defending winner of this race. Really up and down day. They had to start at the rear of the field. They made their way up through the field. They were running in the 20s in that first stage, but finally, the strategy played out. They were able to get in the top 5, kind of be in contention for this thing, but ultimately was not in the cards. Once again, good speed for Blaney, but they ultimately fall short. Chris Buescher finishes in 4th. I would say him and Hamlin were the top 2 in terms of just straight up speed. As I said, despite the different strategies, those 2 were usually the only 2 who, despite what happened when the cautions fell, how the strategies played out, those were the 2 that could make their way up through the field and make passes. So Chris Buescher, a really strong day, kind of like Michigan a couple of weeks ago where they had the speed. It was a strategy race. They put themselves in position. just ultimately they fall up short. And then when it comes to the bubble, it's a great day for them. They scored a lot of points, but someone that was on the bubble, Briscoe, ends up winning it. Chase Elliott with a solid top 5 day. Nothing really exciting on his part, but he was kind of there at the end, but really fell off those last 15 or so laps. John Hunter Nemechek, 6 top 10s this year, and we're not even to the halfway point. This Legacy Motor Club team has made a huge step forward. I look down here, I see Eric Jones in 13th. We'll talk about him in a minute, but Legacy Motor Club has made a huge step forward. As I said, it's been really exciting to see their progress after such a bad year last year. To see John Hunter Nemechek up here, able to hold off Kyle Larson for that last run. Good for him. Kyle Larson. It's weird saying that they're in a slump because they still finished top 5 at Michigan, I think. And I think they finished top 5 at Nashville, top 10 at Nashville maybe. So they're not like in a result slump, but they're standard slump. I don't think they've led laps since Charlotte. Wrecked out early at Mexico. Just ran kind of 7th to 12th today. They got up to the top 5 at strategy every once in a while, but they were nowhere close to Hamlin and Buescher. They weren't even close to Elliott and Blaney, I would argue, especially at the end. I mean, they were right there on that restart with 30 to go, and Larson fell way back. So they're in a mini slump, I guess we could call it, but 7th for him, 8th for Priest, 9th for Keselowski, another triple top 10 for RFK Racing, another great day for them. But Brad Keselowski, Brad, what was the plan, man? Brad Keselowski, Jeremy Bullins, they know they have to win to make the playoffs at this point of the season, where they are in the points in the 30s. They make some aggressive calls. They get themselves a track position. They lead 27 laps. They had only led 8 laps the entire season up to this point. So leading 27 more than tripled what they've done in the first 16 races. Under caution, Brad pits. Now, you may hear that and you're like, what's wrong with Brad pitting? Did they speed on pit road? Was there another type of pit road penalty? Did they get spun out on pit road? Did they hit a tire and get damaged? No! None of those things. Those are like pretty normal pit road issues. Those are pretty normal mistakes that you'd be like, oh man, you can't do that, but you see it all the time. This one you never see. Just such a bad error on the 6 team's part. They pit when pit road is closed. I don't know how this happens. Well, I know how it happens. Miscommunication is the answer, but when you're in the position you're in, you have to win a race. You have great track position. This is the best you've run all year. How does this happen? I'm not going to sit here and tell you they would have been in that group of 5, that top 5, fighting for the win at the end of this thing and would have gone and blown by Briscoe, but they ruined any shot they had at winning the race at that point. Now, ultimately, they were leading, and that caution comes out with 30 to go, and they were trying to do another alternate strategy to get them that track position, but just an error you can't make at any point, especially the position they're in. So, Brad, don't know what happened there. Miscommunication. Austin Cindric with the top 10. Double Penske top 10. Alex Bowman. Josh Berry. Eric Jones top 15. Once again, great day for Legacy Motor Club. Ty Gibbs. Daniel Suarez. Joey Logano. Christopher Bell. He was involved in a multi-car incident. He rallies, I guess, for 17th. Carson Hocevar, he was up in the top 5 at times. He refused to pass Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for like 20 laps because if he messed up, he would have gotten punched. Justin Haley, Kyle Busch, AJ Allmendinger, Cole Custer, Noah Gragson. Custer was up in the top 5, top 10 for a good chunk of the first part of this race. After a great qualifying effort, they end up 22nd. Gregson, Austin Dillon, Zane Smith, Ross Chastain, William Byron. Really not sure what happened to him late in this race because they had arguably top 5 speed. They had great speed in practice. Byron crashes it in qualifying. But when they put themselves in position in this race, like they were top 5. So I don't know what happened late in that race, but they end up 27th. That's going to take a big chunk out of their regular season championship lead. I think they scored stage points, but that's still a big hit. Todd Gilliland, Cody Ware, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., same story there. They were up in the top 10 at times. Anywho, SVG had a Mexican hangover or a Mexico hangover because after the Mexico win, he's involved in multiple incidents. One of their pit group guys got hit by a tire. Like, we'll break that one down tomorrow. Tyler Reddick, oh my goodness, 2311 Racing. 2311, their brakes were on fire And I don't mean that in a nice way. I mean that they were literally, okay, maybe not literally. They were too hot. A brake rotor blows out on the 35 car early in this race. Then about 20 laps later, the same thing happens to the 23, so they finish last and second to last. Tyler Reddick all of a sudden's like, ooh, that's not good. I hope we don't have the same problem. And then they're like, hey man, your brakes are running too hot. And after what happened to your teammates, how about we don't play with this? Take it to the garage, cool down the brakes, see what they can do. They end up finishing a couple of laps down, 32nd. Ty Dillon was involved in that multi-car incident. Brennan Poole had to start the race, do a pass-through penalty. Michael McDowell had a tire blowout, and they had some mechanical problems. That might have also been a brake rotor issue. And then the other 2311 cars, Bubba Wallace and Riley Herbst. So, that's Pocono. Obviously, a lot of frustration. Just that last run, like, it was very exciting in a sense to see like, ooh, is Briscoe going to make it on fuel? Like, how much has he saved? That's an exciting thing. Like, I personally love a good fuel mileage race, but it was also a little frustrating to see guys that weren't saving right there, like 4 in a line, and they just can't pass the guy. So that was frustrating, but it is what it is, I guess. We can talk more about it tomorrow night, but I got to go watch the NBA Finals. So I hate to cut our time together short, even though this was still a decently long video, but we can talk more about it tomorrow night. Hopefully the Thunder win, or else I will be like sobbing on camera tomorrow night.